911, what's your emergency?
It's Mr. Dao. He's in the pen. He went under. Please send help now.
Sir, I need your location.
They're still on him. Oh God, he's not coming up. They're tearing him apart. Please, send someone now.
Stay calm. Help is on the way.
They won't stop. There's more coming. Splashes, tails, got it.
Dao Khemara was the patriarch of Siem Reap, a sun-baked village in northern Cambodia. At 72, the lines on his face were deep as river canyons carved by half a century under the relentless tropical sun. His hands, broad-scarred and knotted with age, still gripped tools with the strength of a younger man. Those hands had built his life from the soil and the water, and from the scaled hides of one of Earth's oldest predators. Dao wasn't chasing internet attention or seeking thrills. His drive was older, rooted in survival tradition and a lifetime of working with creatures that demanded respect. As president of the local Crocodile Farmers Association, his name carried weight. It meant expertise, authority, and the unshakable commitment of a man who had built his fortune, his family's livelihood, and his legacy on these animals. 40 crocodiles lived on his property, not as pets, but as a renewable resource. Their eggs, hides, and meat kept his business alive. The farm was his kingdom, rows of concrete pens, each filled with opaque, algae-thick water. Dao had raised hatchlings here, managed the unpredictable chaos of juveniles, and watched them grow into formidable armor-plated adults. To him, each tank was a rhythm he understood, like the beat of his own heart. His family, though, had begged him for years to stop. Too many jaws, too many shadows in the water. But Dao's answer was always the same. This was his work, his inheritance, and his life. He trusted his skill, believed his discipline was enough to manage the danger. And for decades it seemed to be. Close calls, quick tail strikes, sudden lunges were shrugged off as part of the job. His confidence was steady, his methods refined. He treated them as partners. And for years they acted like it, until a sweltering May afternoon when that illusion shattered. These were not tame beasts. They were crocodiles, apex predators, that could grow more than 15 feet long and weigh over 1,000 pounds. Their eyes, set high on their skulls, could track movement, while their bodies stayed hidden beneath the water's surface. Their jaws were bone-crushing machines, delivering one of the most powerful bite forces on Earth. Once those conical teeth clamped down, they didn't let go. Dao's 40 crocodiles varied in size, but all shared the same capacity for lethal violence. Raised in captivity or born on the farm, they lived confined lives, concrete walls, stagnant pools, and feedings that punctuated otherwise still days. But confinement doesn't erase what nature builds in. Hunger, territory, the ancient rhythm of attack. Over time, these forces swell unseen like pressure under rock. Farmers in other provinces had seen its small signs before disasters, circling patterns, refusals to follow cues, explosive tail strikes during feedings. In Siem Reap, those signs were there. Dao just didn't or wouldn't see them. Farm hands noticed the changes first. Feeding time, once a controlled process, had become chaos. Crocodiles hit the gates hard enough to shake the metal. One worker, still unwilling to speak publicly, remembered old Scarface, a massive male slamming his tail into a wall when Dao tried to collect eggs. The impact rattled the pen. Dao laughed, called it stubbornness, but it wasn't. Crocodiles began circling tighter, their movements agitated. The largest male stopped responding to Dao's stick cues. Instead, it locked onto him with a steady, unblinking stare. No thrash, no hiss, just the quiet, predatory focus of an animal weighing its chance. Still, Dao pressed on. He had his permit. He had decades of survival. He had always brought them back in line with a splash of water or a sharp jab of the stick. Dao Khemara believed decades of work had given him control. But size and routine do not blunt what is wired into muscle and bone. These crocodiles were growing heavier, hungrier, more volatile. No years in concrete tanks could strip them of the same raw purpose that had shaped them over millions of years to hunt, defend, and survive. In a pen packed with dozens of apex predators, pressure builds. Experts call it the pressure cooker effect. Quiet at first, then explosive, unstoppable. The signs had been there: more lunges, harder tail strikes, longer fixed stares. But that May, the buildup ended. The break came hard and fast with the wet crack of teeth through flesh. Siem Reap, May 2023. The sun bore down the air, pressing heavy against skin. Heat shimmered above the enclosures. The smell was thick, wet, mud-stagnant water and the pungent musk of reptiles. Dao stepped into the pen of a massive female that had just laid eggs carrying the same long wooden stick he had used for years. The water barely rippled, but her yellow eyes were locked on him. He moved and angled the stick toward her flank to nudge her into another section. One step too close. In a blur, she surged upward, water exploding off her armored back. The stick never made contact. Her jaws clamped onto his forearm mid-extension. The impact was brutal, like steel jaws snapping shut. Bone crunched. Dao's cry cut short as she yanked him off balance. His boots slipped on the wet concrete. He pitched forward, hitting the water hard. The splash was a signal. From every corner of the pen, bodies moved, 40 crocodiles converging. The surface erupted. Water slapped against the concrete walls. Tails whipped, sending spray into the air. Teeth clamped down from all sides on his legs, his torso, whatever they could reach. Dao's head broke the surface for an instant, his mouth opening to shout. Then a massive tail strike drove him under again. The female rolled, dragging him in a spiral. Another grabbed his other arm. The water frothed red. His body twisted between them, each rotation tearing more flesh. The pen was chaos, scaled bodies slamming together, jaws snapping inches from each other as they fought for pieces. His severed arm vanished into a gaping mouth in a single swallow. 5 minutes or less, and it was over. The water stilled. The circling slowed. Only a few bubbles rose, followed by the lazy drift of the crocodiles in crimson-tinged water. Outside the pen, the cicadas still droned. A farmhand's scream broke through, joined by shouts from family rushing to the gate. By the time police arrived, the scene was frozen in a grotesque stillness. The pen reeked of blood. Bits of clothing floated near the wall. What remained of Dao's body was dragged out, covered in bite marks, one arm gone entirely. Witnesses spoke in short, broken sentences. They swarmed him. All at once, one muttered. A niece collapsed when she saw the pen reviving, only to whisper, "He raised them." How could this happen? Medics could do nothing. Death was declared on the spot, massive trauma, dismemberment, and drowning. Wildlife officers moved in their steps, deliberate eyes fixed on the agitated reptiles. The crocodiles watched from the water, silent now, their eyes just above the surface. Words spread fast through Siem Reap, then across Cambodia, then the world. Headlines flared, "Crocodile farmer eaten alive by own reptiles." The details were grisly, especially the dismemberment and the consumption of Dao Khemara's arm. They gripped audiences far beyond Cambodia, drawing a mix of horror and morbid fascination. The autopsy left little room for interpretation. Massive blunt force trauma, deep punctures and lacerations, matching crocodile bites and catastrophic dismemberment. Even seasoned medical personnel paused at the sheer scope of damage, limbs torn apart, bones crushed beyond repair. It was clear that the attack had unleashed the full mechanical power of these predators. Police moved in quickly, documenting every angle of the enclosure. The gates, the slick concrete, the pools of water still tinged red. No sabotage, no human interference, just a deadly accident in the most literal sense. The conclusion was blunt: Dao's own animals had killed him. Within the Crocodile Farmers Association he once led, public statements were respectful, but in private, veteran farmers spoke in lowered voices. "We all know the risk," one told a local paper. But Dao, he trusted them too much. Public reaction fractured into two loud camps. Animal rights groups seized the moment, holding up signs, "Captivity kills, free the crocodiles," outside other farms. Social media burned with arguments. Some blamed Dao for ignoring warnings, while others blamed the very industry that kept apex predators penned for profit. Dao's family withdrew from public view. For years, they had pleaded with him to walk away. Now the farm, once a symbol of pride, stood as a monument to their worst fear made real. There were no lawsuits, no drawn-out court cases. Locals accepted the tragedy as part of the profession. But in government offices, quiet talks began about tightening safety protocols for crocodile handlers. The 40 crocodiles remain. In Cambodia, their economic value outweighed calls for mass culling. The female that had first dragged Dao under was singled out for removal, whether by isolation or death. The rest continued to circle in their tanks, living testaments to the wildness that could never be bred out. Wildlife expert Dr. Soka Penn summed it up. "These are ancient, instinct-driven machines. Confinement builds stress like heat in a sealed room. When it vents, you can't stop it." Former animal trainers from other industries echoed him. "Love doesn't erase trauma," one said. We all saw the clock ticking. Dao believed his skill and his stick could keep danger at bay. But wild crocodiles roam vast territories, hunt as they choose, and navigate complex social orders. In a concrete tank, they circle endlessly, pressing against walls that will never move. That pressure twists into aggression, sometimes toward each other, sometimes toward the human who steps inside. His death was no fluke. It was another chapter in a long global history of captive predators, turning on their keepers, orca trainers, big cat handlers, primate owners. The questions left behind are sharp-edged. When does livelihood become exploitation? Can there be true connection inside a cage built for profit? The blood-stained floor of Dao Khemara's farm now speaks for itself. Nature can be contained but never conquered. And when instinct breaks free, it does so with all the force of history repeating itself, merciless, certain, and final. In the end, Dao Khemara's story isn't just about one man and his crocodiles. It's about the razor-thin line between control and chaos. If this chilling account gripped you, there are more real-life encounters where nature reminds us who's truly in charge. Don't miss the next one. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The wild is closer than you think.